Hello, everyone. I hope you can all hear me and see me. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar hosted by the TEFL Academy. Very happy to be here with you today and very excited to see all the names coming into the chat on the side of your screen. So yes, please, it would be great to see who's watching today. So please say hi in the chat, tell us your name and tell us where you are today so that we can absolutely say hi to you. And then while we wait for those names to come in, just a little bit about me. My name, as I've mentioned, is Luan, and I've been a teacher for over 13 years. And during this time, I've taught students from all over the world. It's been quite exciting and not something I'd like to give up anytime soon. So I hope that your journey is exciting too, and we're so thrilled to be part of it. So today's webinar is about something very, very particular. I will be answering some questions at the end of the presentation, roughly 30 odd minutes into the presentation. That's when I'll be answering the questions. So what I suggest you do is hold on to those questions until then and then type them in. The reason is if you type them very early on in the presentation, I might miss them and I might not get to them at the end. And they're all important questions. They're valid questions, and I'd really, really like to answer them. Also remember that if you have any questions outside of today's topic, please don't worry. Of course, you can send us a message at Tutor Support, all academic questions, and our tutors are on standby, myself included, to help you with whatever you need assistance with. Today's webinar, we will be answering questions only relating to today's topic. So if I happen to ignore a question about something else, please don't feel bad. Just send that question to Tutor Support. So let's see who we've got coming in. We have, wow, we've got loads. We've got people from South Africa, where I'm from. We have people from the Philippines. We also have people from South America and Argentina. Also from Jamaica, France. Welcome to you all. It's wonderful to have you here today. So I think it's time to get started because we've got a lot to cover today. I know that all of you feel a little tentative about your assignments, but that's why we've got these webinars so that we can really take you step by step through the assignments, what they entail, and then, as I've mentioned earlier, to answer all those important questions later on in the presentation. All right, so let's get going. Okay, so as you could see, the webinar is all about that assignment B, but on the level 3 course. So today we are covering the level 3 assignment B. So I will absolutely answer any questions relating to that assignment as far as I can. But remember that if you have questions about the level 5 assignments or about any other short course assignments, you can absolutely contact us on Tutor Support and we'll help you. All right, so let's get started and have a look at exactly what we're going to cover today. All right, so today we're going to explore the following. We're going to look at what the assignment assesses. Why do we do the assignment? What are we looking for in your assignment level 3B? We're going to look at the various documents that you are meant to download. We're going to look at step 1 and then also step 2. So step 1, of course, is the lesson plan review. And then step 2 is creating authentic activities using authentic materials. And then also finally, adapting a physical resource. That is a crucial part of the assignment. And we're going to take you through that today so that by the end of this webinar, you'll know what to do. All right, so the first thing we're going to look at is exactly what the assignment assesses. So as you know, with all our courses, whether you're doing the level 5, whether you're doing the level 3, we have assignments to test your ability to engage with our material and to produce lessons that we know once they're polished and once they've been revised, once they've received a bit of feedback, you can confidently and comfortably go out and teach these lessons, right? So the assignment level 3B assesses your ability to evaluate an existing lesson plan and make improvements. One day when you're working at an actual school, some of you you might be handed lesson plans that other teachers have done, but those lesson plans might need a bit of work. So what would you do to improve those lesson plans? And that's what step one is essentially about. The assignment also assesses your ability to create authentic materials using freely available resources, and then also to evaluate the appropriate nature and safety of a physical resource. So that's part of what the assignment assesses. That's exactly what we're looking for. Can you evaluate a lesson plan and make improvements? Can you create authentic activities using authentic and freely available resources? Can you evaluate the appropriateness and safety of a physical resource? Right, so now we're going to have a look at the documents that you are meant to download. So the very first thing that you'll see is that there's a lesson plan for review that you are meant to download. And this lesson plan has got sections where you are meant to type your work. And then also another template that you're meant to download is the activities template. You're also going to be downloading a materials template, and then also finally a physical resource template. So those are the templates. Anything else that we put on there, anything else that we've provided in that list of notes, those are instructions or guidelines or models to assist you. But the templates that you will be typing on and submitting to us is the lesson plan for review, the activities template, the materials template, and of course, the physical resource template. Make a note of that. 4 templates that you are meant to submit. Download first, work on, and then submit. All right. So the very first step, and it's comfortably called step one. So you can't go wrong when looking at the instructions and almost watching this webinar at the same time when you're ready to start the assignment. So it's called step one, and it's the lesson plan review. Right. So as mentioned earlier, the lesson plan is an existing lesson plan that another teacher has hypothetically done. And this lesson plan has a few holes, it has a few issues, it has a few problems that you might not want to implement in your classroom. So what we're asking you is to review this lesson plan, to revise certain sections of the lesson plan. And a good place to start is reading the case study that we have given you. The case study will give you information about your students, like their age, their background, the level, very importantly, the level of your students, that you can form this picture in your mind of what your class is going to look like. And then you need to think about a PPP lesson plan, because that's what this lesson plan essentially is. But it's not perfect. So go back to our models in the course content, go back to assignment A, what we had there and the feedback you got in assignment A. Use that as part of your process when making when making reviews and making suggestions for this particular lesson plan. Look at the model given, and then identify the shortcomings and make recommendations. And where are you going to write these recommendations? Well, at the end, or at the bottom, should I say, of every single stage of the lesson, there is a blank section called the improvements section. And that's where you can, in paragraph form, type your recommendations. For example, you could say things like, the teacher in this lesson plan has not done this, and I think that by adding something like this to the stage would greatly benefit the students. The teacher in this lesson plan for this particular stage has not taken into consideration all that has to be done, and I think that the time is too short. So that's how you would basically format your recommendations. And remember that there's that space at the end of each stage where you can write these improvements. All right. Okay, so remember that when you open up this lesson plan, You do not need to comment on the aims, the objectives, the anticipated problems. These have been included already for your information. You don't have to tweak or revise any of these. You can literally just scroll down to the very first stage of the lesson, which is usually the warmer, and read what the teacher has done for the warmer. And then at the bottom in the improvement section, you will, of course, write your recommendations. So just to reiterate, you do not need to comment on the aims, the objectives, or the anticipated problems. These are done and dusted for you. Lesson plan continued. So remember that this is an online lesson, right? And you need to think about a few things. You need to consider a few things. Are the tasks suitable for an online lesson? I think I'll give you a little hint. There's one section where the teacher says the students walk to the board. Well, in an online lesson, this is not really feasible. So what would you do to make this more flexible and to make it more user-friendly in an online capacity? But remember, it's not only the online aspects and how they will or won't work in the lesson that you have to comment on, because you also need to comment on, and if you look at the slide, you need to comment on aspects like the tasks, and are they sufficiently student focused? Has the teacher remembered techniques like eliciting and concept checking the target language? Are the tasks suitable for that particular stage of the lesson? If the teacher has, for example, used the target language in the warmer already, is that perhaps not too soon? Is that really where the teacher should be revealing the target language? So you really need to look at each stage, what is meant to happen in that particular stage, and then make your recommendations. And as mentioned earlier, do go back to assignment A and the feedback given to you on assignment A, because assignment A is based on a PPP lesson plan. So your tutor that marks your assignment is going to give you feedback on where you've gone wrong or what can be done better in the future. And I would say use some of that to make your recommendations. Of course, not copy paste the feedback, but really take that feedback into consideration when making recommendations for assignment B's lesson plan. All right, so remember the tasks have got to be student focused. Think about whether they are or not after you've read the lesson plan. And also remember techniques like eliciting and concept checking. Has the teacher done this? And if they've not done this, how would you implement these activities? And then also remember, are the tasks, the different tasks, suitable for their respective stages? Think about the structure of a PPP lesson plan and what each stage is meant to involve and meant to entail, and then definitely make your recommendations from there. Also, think about the timing of each stage. Is the timing appropriate for the different stages? Is the warmer too long or is it too short? Is the presentation, is there enough time allocated for the presentation stage? So think about timing, think about how these activities would play out in a real classroom or in an online classroom for that matter. And think about whether enough time has been allocated. Also think about whether there is enough information in the lesson plan so that another teacher could pick it up and follow it. Because if, for example, the lesson plan is too vague, remember, teachers share lesson plans. If I'm going to be teaching the A2 class and you're going to be taking over and with your own A2s, why not revise and tweak the lesson plan I've used? But that's why the lesson plan has got to be detailed enough. So comment on whether there's enough information in the lesson plan. And if not, what else would you add to make it clearer for another teacher wishing to do the same lesson with one of their classes? So when you are doing the lesson plan review, please think about the structure of a PPP lesson. Think about what is meant to happen in the warmer, the presentation, the practice, the produce, and is there a final stage that is maybe missing in the existing lesson plan? So think about all those things. Write your recommendations in paragraph form at the bottom of each respective stage. And yes, make it as detailed as you can so that we can see that you have really thought about this and what about this lesson plan would work, what about this lesson plan would not work, and whether or not this lesson plan is now substantial enough to stand on its own and be used by another teacher without too many added notes. So that's all about the lesson plan review. And if you've got any questions, remember you're going to be able to ask me a little bit later on. But right now, we're going to move to step 2 of the assignment. And this is such an exciting stage of the assignment because this is where you get to bring in not only your knowledge of the course content, but some of your creativity and some of your understanding of what students at a particular level and particular age group require. So, step 2 is all about creating authentic activities, right? So, the very first thing you're going to do here, now remember I said earlier, one of the documents that you're going to download is called the activities template. So, first things first, open this template. Look at activity 1. So, what do we want for activity 1? We want you to find an authentic text. So, what is an authentic text? An authentic text is a piece of text that you found on a website, in an extract of a book, in a magazine, but it has not been created for English learning purposes. So, if it's found on an English website where students are learning English, it's not authentic. If it's been created for a particular English vocabulary set, not authentic. If it's part of a course book, not authentic. If, however, it is a website just to entertain and inform people, then yes, a travel website, or those are the kinds of websites where you will find authentic material, brochures, magazines, yeah, all those kinds of things that we as first language speakers would just pick up and read, right? So you need to find an authentic text, the class background, age, it's the same group of people as in step 1. So you're creating step 2 for the same group of people in step 1, but the activities you create do not need to be based on the content of step 1's lesson plan. These are entirely independent. It's only that it's created for the same group. So just to consolidate, you need to find an authentic text. We have specified the topic in the assignment notes, and then you need to create a task based on this text. And this task can be either controlled or freer, one or the other. And this task is going to be filled in on the activities template. So we've provided the topic. We've reminded you that it's for the same group as step 1's class, just that it doesn't have to be connected to step 1's lesson, entirely independent, right? But we have specified the topic. So authentic text, then create a task based on this text. Remember, either controlled or freer, and this task must be added to the activities template. All right. Now, a little bit more on this activity is that we need the actual worksheet. You will also see that there's a materials file that we need to download, that you need to download, right? Now, in the materials file, we cannot accept only links, like a link to your text, a link to your video, a link to your task. No, tutors should not have to open links to view the activities you've designed. We need an actual worksheet that you've created based on the activity you created in your activities file. Your students need a worksheet, whether it's something that you will send to them via the chat function, whether it's something you will email to them, whether it's something you will just display on the screen that will prompt and instruct them as to how to complete the task. We do need something tangible to grade. And what we're marking here is your ability to create materials, to exploit your authentic text, materials that would help students understand what to do, a little worksheet, a true or false worksheet, a fill the gap worksheet, just a few instructions for a speaking task, but something that just guides them through the task. So remember, we need the actual worksheet here and not only a picture or not only an explanation of what you will do. Right. So, as mentioned, we need the actual worksheet in your materials file. Do not send only links. You must create the worksheet and task yourself. It cannot be something you found on another English website. It cannot be something that you found in a course book. It must be a task that you created 100% by yourself. Some of our students use these fancy online software programs to create an interactive activity. That's great. You need to do two things here. You can send us the link to that, and you can take a few screenshots of the actual task. If, however, you've not used any fancy programs to create your tasks, but you've just created slides with instructions for your students to view, those are 100% okay too, but include them in your materials file. And also make sure that your tasks are not just taken from another resource. You have to have created them yourself. This assignment is all about authentic materials and authentic activities. If we see that either your text or your activity has been taken off another English learning website or another resource, we will have to ask you to resubmit your assignment. All right. And then a little bit about activity 2. Now remember, step 2 has got 2 activities that you have to create. The one is based on an authentic text, and the second activity, activity 2, is based on an authentic video. So a video that you found on a nice travel site, a video that you found on, I'm giving away the topic here, but a video that you found on YouTube. But remember again, it must be authentic. So it cannot be an English learning video. It cannot be a video that explicitly teaches them vocabulary or a video found on an English learning website. No, this video has got to be 100% authentic. Topic related, yes, but to inform and to entertain. It could be the activity that you create, once again, can be either controlled or freer, but it must be based on this authentic video that you submit. And then remember also to add the activity to the activities template. We've created sort of a lesson plan, semi-lesson plan template for you so that you can write up your activity and we can see exactly what's happening during this activity. Is the teacher giving instructions? Does the teacher put the students into breakout rooms? Does the teacher display the worksheet on the screen? That's the kind of the activity information you'll be putting into the activities template. But then remember, once again, we need the actual worksheet based on this activity or related to this activity included in your materials file. Again, if you've created something interactive online, we need the screenshots pasted into the materials file. If you've created a slide with true and false questions, paste the whole slide into the materials file. If you've created just speaking prompts so that your students can have a freer speaking activity based on the video, put these prompts onto a slide and stick it into the materials file. Something tangible so that we can see literally what you're going to send to students in order to fulfill the task. All right, so the very last step of the assignment is step 3, adapting a physical resource for use in the classroom. So the very first thing you need to do, once again, is to read the class description. Always a great place to start, isn't it? Because we learn more about the students, we hear what their issues are, we hear what their strengths are, we hear what they like, what they don't like, and that's all in this class description. Then there's a description of a game that these students like to play. And all you need to do is write up, again, in paragraph form, how you would adapt this game and the physical props to make sure that the game is safer and more appropriate for the particular class that you've been allocated. So again, you don't have to submit any materials for step 3. You don't have to submit any links or anything extra. It's basically almost written up like an essay, but to tell us what you would do to make this game safer. You could write things like, I would adapt this game by changing this into something a bit more that. And I would increase the time. I would make the font of the prompts bigger. So you could absolutely just write up what you would do. Write it in a nice, cohesive, simple language so that we can follow and almost visualize this game and how you've improved it. It's actually quite a nice activity because it really makes you think about the students you have and what they need. And it also takes you outside of that academic sphere a little bit because, the lesson plan is academic. Those activities you're creating are academic in step one, step two. But step three says, oh, there's something new here. This is what this class needs. Spanner in the works here. What would you do to make this activity safer? So slightly less academic, but so important for classroom management and just including every single person in the lesson. So it's rather a nice activity, and it's a lovely activity to consolidate your assignment with. We've specified the word limit. We've also given you headings to help you organize your thoughts. But again, yes, stick to the word limit. We always have a 10% leeway. Either way, remember that and just enjoy the process. Write it in clear, simple, accurate English so that we can follow exactly what it is you want to do. All right. Remember not to change the nature of the game too much. We're not asking you to change the game. We're asking you to adapt the game. Sometimes we get recommendations for the game that are so different to the original nature of the task that it seems like an entirely new game. Try and keep it as close to the original game as possible, but tweaking and revising it so that it's safer and more appropriate. All right. As mentioned, use the headings on the template as a guide. Excuse me. Must be written in the first person as a continuous text, not bullet points, please. And then, as mentioned, the word limit has been specified on the template. It's roughly 300 words, give or take 10% leeway. We're always a little bit flexible on that because we know that you've got so many good ideas. If, however, you do vastly exceed the word limit, then we would have to ask you to trim things down a little bit. All right. So something important, the most important part of this presentation are the tips, because these tips are what often make the difference between you passing and having to resubmit your assignment. So there's a checklist before you submit. Please read the checklist. It is not there for decoration. Read the checklist because it very often reminds you exactly what to do. Have I done this? Have I done that? Think about it as that checklist before you go on a road trip. It is so important. You don't want to have to turn around. So read the checklist. Use our templates only. Yes, they are in MS Word, but there are free programs out there that you can use to download and type on them. So literally just download them, type on the templates, and then, of course, convert them to PDF before you submit them. We will not accept non-PDF form assignments. If you send them to us in Word, we have to unfortunately ask you to resubmit. Remember to create your own tasks. Do not use a task you found on another website. We will ask you to resubmit. Also, please do some research on what authentic materials entail. Do a lot of homework here because this is one of the biggest reasons why students are asked to resubmit this assignment, is that they've submitted materials that are not authentic. The core of this assignment, or at least the core of step 2, both activities 1 and 2, is authentic. So the materials have got to be authentic, and also the activities you create based on those materials. And finally, the worksheet you submit for that activity in your materials file, all authentic, all created by you. And I think it's wonderful practice because when you get out there and you have to create your own materials, well, you've had a lot of practical practice. Okay, so when submitting, use the naming convention guidelines that we have specified on the assignment page. We cannot accept your files if you've named them differently because your marker will not be able to see whether everything that we have have specified has actually been submitted. So actually what will happen is if they can't see that your specific files have been submitted, they will ask you to resubmit. And you do not want to have to waste that kind of time. You want to get your assignment marked ASAP so you can get your certificate, right? So please follow the naming convention guidelines there. It's very specific. I think it's your family name underscore, first name underscore, which assignment it is, which document it is, and that it's in PDF format. All right. And then also remember to view your assignment feedback. Your marker, when you get the assignment feedback, please be aware that your marker will never just ask you to resubmit without telling you why. A marker will very specifically tell you what has gone wrong, why it's gone wrong. And also remember that your marker is one of the tutors. We've created this assignment together. So when we ask you to submit something, it's not because we're trying to be difficult. It is literally because something is missing and maybe something that we need to grade and assess has not been included. So your marker will always provide feedback and not just send you your assignment, but tell you why it's been sent back, which sections need work. They'll give you sites, recommendations, examples to help you revamp that part of your assignment. But then please remember when you resubmit, not only to send that part that you have worked on, but the full assignment. We can only accept full assignments when you resubmit. Right, so to view this feedback, this all important feedback, simply go to your home page. And remember that this reminder is in the course material and our frequently asked questions. You'll be able to find it there in case you forget how to find your feedback. You simply go to your home page. You click on the icon. I think it's at the top right-hand corner. Yeah. And you select grades. On the next page, you click on your course, scroll down past the test results, and your feedback is at the bottom of the page. Of course, you're going to forget this. I have forgotten it already, but it's all in our course info and you'll be able to find your feedback. If you have forgotten and you don't know where to find these prompts or these instructions, send us a ticket on tutor support and we'll send you a reminder step by step of how to find your feedback. Then, of course, address all the feedback and send the assignment back to us, full assignment. All right, and if you get stuck, or something doesn't make sense, something feels a little off, you haven't been able to maybe think of something to revise your assignment, forgotten some information, contact us at tutor support and we can either send you a little bit more feedback, we can ask your marker to clarify what they mean, but remember, as specified in our terms, we cannot preview files or assignment work before you submit, whether it's a new assignment, whether it's a resubmit assignment, we cannot preview any part of your work before. And that's because of our 3 attempts policy. You get 3 attempts in total, 1 initial submission and 2 resubmission attempts. So that's 3 attempts in total. And if we're previewing your work on tutor support, that gives you an unfair advantage. So you do have to stick to the 3 attempts and we will therefore give you plenty of support and plenty of help to redraft your assignment, but of course we won't be able to preview your files. And please remember, this is probably the most important thing today. It's okay to have to resubmit. It only means that a particular part of what we need to grade has not been included. Maybe you've just misunderstood an instruction. Not for a second are you a bad teacher or a bad student, not at all. During my TEFL, during my studies, of course, I had to resubmit assignments. Oh, so many of them. I don't want to think about how many. So absolutely, having to resubmit, not a problem. It just means that we need a little bit of revision on a little bit of a section, maybe 2 sections, and then you get to have your work remarked. It doesn't affect your grade. It doesn't affect anything if you have to resubmit. It's such a natural part of an online course. All right, so that's me for today. And now we're going to go to Q&A, where I get to answer all your fun questions. And I know that some of you have questions. I know that it's a lot of information in one webinar, but I also know that if you take the assignment step by step, you will be more than okay. Please remember just a couple of reminders that in the assignment, there's step 1, there's step 2, there's step 3. Step 1 is the lesson plan review, where you just write how you would improve upon the lesson plan. Step 2 is where you have to create 2 activities, one based on an authentic text and the other based on an authentic video or listening clip. You have to create an activity for each of them, and you have to create a worksheet for your students, and all that has got to be submitted. That's step 2. Step 3 is where you write how you would adapt a game to make it safe and appropriate for a particular class. Yep, that's the assignment. So it sounds easy. That's because it is, but I know that it's a lot of work and that it can be quite daunting for new teachers. So please take it step by step and ask us lots of questions on Tutor Support. So right now we have Q&A. So please, I want to urge you to put your questions into the chat function on the side of your screen. And I will, of course, try to get to as many of them as possible, so that you leave this webinar feeling a bit more confident than when you came in about assignment B on the level 3 course. I am going to have to ignore questions about the other courses and other assignments, as there are webinars very particularly created for those other assignments. So please watch the space. But today's questions will only be answered on today's topic, which is level 3, assignment B. So let's have a look if there are any questions so far. Please write them in the chat function. I still see lots of hellos coming through. It's so lovely to have all of you here today. Very exciting to see people from all over the world. All right. Okay, so as soon as the questions come in, I will answer them. Right, so we've got a question here. Level 3 course. I'm just trying to see the actual question. Right, so as you know, when you are doing your course, the assignments are released at various times. Of course, at the beginning of the course, you will have access to a student handbook, and the student handbook will give you a little bit of information. But the actual assignments are released at various parts of the online course. And you will not have missed them, because when you reach a certain point, you will literally finish your end of unit test and you'll be able to get straight onto the assignment. So the first assignment, I think it's after unit 5, if I'm not mistaken. And then the next one is later on in the course. I will confirm that with you, but yes, I think that's exactly where you have access to your assignments. So we have a couple of more questions coming in. Could you please clarify where to leave the link to the video for activity 2 in the materials? Okay, good question. So Elena, thank you for your question. When you do the assignment and the activities, your actual material, like say, for example, you've created an activity like a true or false worksheet or a fill the gap worksheet, we don't only need the link, we actually need screenshots. So copy paste pictures of the actual activity so that we can see what the activity looks like. But good question. The link itself, you can put below the screenshots, and then also in the bibliography section, where you can then add all the other bibliography related details that you need to put in there. So I would say link for the worksheet, you can put it directly under the screenshots, but then also, yes, in your bibliography file too. All right. And then we have another question here from Berna. And in step 2, we have to create 2 online activities. That's correct. Can we also decide what type of lesson, whether it's a reading, vocabulary, grammar, yes, you can. So we have not specified whether it has to be a vocabulary lesson, whether it's based on a reading. And also, we've not specified the target language that you have to teach. We've only given you the level of the class and the age group, in that it's the same group as step one. But Berna, you get to decide exactly what target language or what skill you want to focus on in the actual activity. So that's totally up to you. Make it nice and clear in the activities section. And then, of course, your worksheet that you design really should reinforce that. That if it's a vocabulary lesson you've planned, the worksheet is to practice the vocabulary. I hope that helps. All right. And then in the lesson plan paragraph, in the lesson plan form paragraph, you mentioned the write-up is about 300 words, but the activity indicates, all right. I think that's because there are two activities. There are two activities, and the word, excuse me, and the word limit is usually for the entire document, or it will specify if it's for the separate files. So just see which part that it relates to. But yeah, if, for example, I think the write-up, you mean the full lesson plan, right? Remember that there are two activities on there. If there's one word limit specified, it's for the whole document. If it's two separate word limits, then it's, of course, per activity. Right. Let's see. Is there online classes or no? So just assignments and texts. I think I'm going to need a little bit more information to answer this question. So I think it's you, so. Could you please just clarify that for us? And we will answer that, no problem, as soon as we can. All right, and then there's another question. If we finish this course, I remembered something about ID number and photo. Yes, so when you finish the course, you will contact student services and they will handle everything in relation to your ID and also organize your certificate to get dispatched. That's our student services department. I think there's a survey to finish at the end of the course as well, so that they know exactly where you want your certificate sent. But yes, student services deals with all that, and they're more than capable of just helping you and answering every single question about your certificate and the end of your course and what process you have to follow. All right. Any other questions? I am ready for them. All right. Let's see. All right, so we've got another question here. Hello, Selena here. Hi, Selena. Does the authentic text difficulty depend on the age of the students? So, Selena, I think when you select, it's a very good question, by the way. When you select authentic text, there are, yes, a couple of things that you have to take into consideration. You have to consider the age of your students, yes, but for me, more important is the level of your students. So, your students are, I will give a little bit of information away here. Yes, they're young learners. So they're young. They need something that speaks to them, but at the same time, very importantly, is their level. So they're not a particularly high level. And what's difficult is to find an authentic text that isn't too overwhelming in terms of vocabulary and grammar for a low level class. So you know what, Selena, almost everything you're going to consider is going to have above level vocabulary and grammar. And that's okay, because remember, hypothetically, we would pre-teach some of that before we give it to them to read. So don't be put off if you see a few words that are above level and too difficult for them. The idea is to choose something with not too many. not too many difficult words, something that speaks to their particular age group, isn't too lengthy. Um, and something cohesive and meaty enough for you to create your activities on. So I would say two things to consider here: something child centered and something that isn't too advanced in terms of vocabulary and grammar. So think about sites like Nat Geo Kids, think about sites like Time for Kids. Yes, they contain higher level vocabulary and grammar, but the language has still been simplified to an extent that children can understand the gist of what's going on, provided you would hypothetically pre-teach some of the difficult stuff. So use some of the sites I've just mentioned now, go through them, see if you can find anything nice, something useful there, something that really speaks to kids will be good. All right. Okay, so we've got another question from Elena. What about the recommended length for text and video to use in our activities? Okay, so really, yes, I do like this question because very often we get videos that are 12 minutes long or texts that are 500 words in length. You know, for adults, a 500 word text, not a bad idea. But for children, I would say keep it short and simple. So think about those texts that are about 200 words, um, 150 words, 250 words. It's a nice length. You can still get a lot of information out of those texts. You can base a full comprehension on those texts. I would say go with that. And then when it comes to a video, 4 to 5 minutes, maybe six. I would say no longer than seven. It's really stretching from about 4 to 7. But I would say, yeah, not shorter than that and not longer than 7 minutes. 12 minutes is way too long for a lesson that is maybe usually about an hour. So I would say 4 minutes minimum, 7 minutes maximum, and that's pushing it a little bit. But if the video is quite engaging and the language is not too overwhelming, 7 minutes could also be okay. I hope that helps. All right, so we've got a comment based on a previous question. To follow on Selena's question, can we use a tool like Text Inspector to change some vocabulary that may be too difficult for this class? So the answer is no, you cannot. You can absolutely use it to see how many high-level words the text contains, but to change text and to simplify vocabulary means that that text is no longer authentic. The minute we change and simplify and adapt a text to meet classroom needs, that's when the text has now been created for a lesson. It's not how the students would have picked it up and read it outside the class, which means, sorry, Berna, then it is no longer authentic. So those text inspectors like Vocab Kitchen, the Profiler, absolutely use them to see that the text you're thinking about doesn't contain too many high-level structures. But no, unfortunately, we cannot adapt the text because then it becomes semi or non-authentic. All right. I hope that helps. And then we've got another great question from Sandra. Can you please specify what you mean when you say controlled or freer? Where do we start, Sandra? So this is quite, I'm not sure how far you are in the online course, Sandra, but we do deal quite extensively in the online course with controlled and freer. Controlled practice tasks are where the answers are almost predetermined by you. So your gap fill activities, your matching activities, unscrambling words to create a sentence, unscrambling letters to create the words, a comprehension activity where they've got to read something to and answer the questions. Those are all very controlled because the answers are predetermined. Whereas a freer practice task is where the students have the freedom to communicate using the target language you've specified, maybe using the vocabulary and the grammar they've learned, but in a very relaxed, conversational set up, like a role play task, an interview each other task, a little group discussion, planning something together. Those are your freer practice tasks. And both these tasks need structure and they both need a worksheet to help get students started. A control practice task would maybe be a gap fill worksheet or a comprehension worksheet, while a freer practice worksheet would maybe be the discussion questions or the role play instructions and prompts. So, yeah, controlled and freer, think about it in that way. When an activity is controlled, the answers are predetermined, they're set by the teacher, the answers are in that text. The vocabulary they've got to produce is in that text, whereas freer is basically more of a communicative and interactive activity. I hope that helps. All right, so you have you have clarified your question. I think you're asking about the course in general, if I'm not mistaken. Like, do we get online classes like Zoom and so on, or do we just do tests and assignments? So the course is a blended course. You do um, online. We have the weekly Zooms. There are, of course, videos that you can watch in the course. Some of our courses at the TEFL Academy have a weekend face-to-face seminar that you can attend. You will just need to contact student services to see exactly what your course entails and how you can access all these extras. All right, so we've got a question from Ivy. Ivy says the videos and the worksheets have to be authentic. Yes. Do you mean we can record kids in a class setup? No, that's not what we mean here. Authentic, Ivy, means that you have not copied the worksheet off an internet resource. You've created the worksheet yourself. You've not copied some discussion questions off a website or out of a course book. You have created the discussion questions yourself. Authentic material means that materials that have not been created for English learning, but just information-based, authentic materials out there that people would read on a daily basis. That's what authentic materials entail. So please, Ivy, yes, my suggestion is to do as much research. The online course contains a lot of information on this, and then also ask on tutor support so we can give you some more guidance. But yeah, so it means to create you or Ivy are going to create your activities yourself, and the authentic material that you find on the internet and so on has not been created for English learning purposes. I hope that helps. All right. So please remember, send in your questions. I think a couple more have come in here, one from Vivian. Vivian wants to know what happens if you do not succeed after 3 submissions with your assignment. So Vivian, what we then do is we send your assignment to our internal quality assurance department. They have a look. They see what's been done, the marking process, and then they make that final decision. But remember, Vivian, like, we do try to give you quite a lot of feedback after each resubmission attempt so that you can pass your assignment. We absolutely want you to pass your assignment. We want to put our certificates out there in the world. So we do try and assist as far as we can. And also, my advice to all of you who are thinking about getting the assignment started is that if something is unclear beforehand, ask us before you submit. Say to us, look, I am still not sure what a controlled practice activity entails. Can you give me more information? Just so that we can absolutely guide you and that it will not be necessary then to resubmit numerous times. So my advice to avoid all of that, please do ask questions on tutor support. As mentioned, we won't, of course, be able to preview your work, but we can absolutely answer your questions to help you get there. All right, I hope that helps. Okay, any other questions before we wrap this up? I can't believe how quickly it's gone. All right, and also remember, while we're busy here, there are webinars every single week. Same time, same place. Just pay attention to when it's happening in your where you are, so that you can absolutely watch them. Remember also that if you miss them, you can send us a ticket to tutor support. We can send you the link and you can actually watch old archived webinars that are still so useful and so relevant to your course today. Also, if you don't send a ticket, you can find our YouTube channel, subscribe, and you can watch all these videos at your leisure. Pause them, take notes, write down questions, send them to tutor support, and then keep watching. All right. Here's a question from Ivy. We can use newspapers. Yes, absolutely, you can. Just remember, Ivy, that newspapers are really written for proficient speakers of English. So newspapers very often contain big words. I don't even want to, big words that your low-level learners may not understand, unless it's a little newspaper that's been written for kids. Then you'll find that even though it's written for first language speakers and it's authentic, it has been simplified to an extent so that children can understand the content. So newspapers, great authentic material, but I would say for higher levels. Also remember, please, just one thing to tie in with Ivy's question is that your authentic material, if it's an authentic text, it must be text-based. In other words, there must be text that your learners will have read at some point in the lesson. Your video cannot just be a beautiful visual video, but have only background music. Then we send it back to you because there's actually nothing from a language perspective that your students are listening to. So a video has got to include language that they're listening to. Maybe people talking about the topic. Maybe someone making a home video of an experience. Maybe someone doing an interview about the topic, but there's got to be actual language that your students are listening to. So just to reiterate, your authentic text cannot just be pictures, it must be an actual text that your students will have read at some point in the lesson. And the authentic video cannot just be a beautiful visual video, but then only have music. It's got to actually be language in the video that your students are listening to related to the topic that we have specified in the assignment instructions. All right, does that make sense? All right, so it looks like we've actually come to the end of our webinar today. The presentation section is done, Q&A is done. I'm so happy that you were here watching and listening and asking all your important questions, right? If you have questions about the course in general, please send them to tutor support. I will not be able to get to them today. If you have questions about level 3 assignment B specifically, that's what this webinar is about. So that's what you would be sending your questions based on, and that's I hope I've answered everything sufficiently. All right, so just one more thing that we do need from you is, of course, at the end of every webinar, we ask you to fill in our survey, and I think it's because we like to make these webinars really tailor-made for you. So we like to hear back from you. We like to hear what you enjoyed about the webinar, any suggestions that you might have, all very useful. So please send those to us. Please do the survey whenever you can. I will also display it on the screen, and you'll be able to save it on your computer so that you can complete it when you have some time. All right, so I'm very happy that you found the webinar useful. The survey link is in the chat function right now, and I really hope to see all of you at the next webinar and the next one and the next one. Join as many as you can, watch as many as you can in your free time. They are ever so useful. I'm very happy that you found this one useful too. All right, so survey should be sent in your chat. Remember to watch all our webinars, as I've said, on our YouTube channel. If you can't find this, send us a message to Tutor Support and we'll send you the link. All right, and please enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you so much for watching today, and we'll see you next time.